Let me take you on a walk through healthcare. Being in this amazing venue, to me, looks a bit like a starship. It feels from healthcare that I'm sometimes coming from a different planet. A few years ago, 6 years ago, I was visited a colleague of mine who's a pediatric oncologist on a rounds going to this girl of 30 years of age that was going to be dismissed and discharged to the home, wrapping up her chemotherapy at that moment. She had to come back in 8 weeks from then, and my colleague said, I want to see you in 2 weeks from now just to see how you're doing. And this little girl, 13 years of age, bright eyes, bold, said, what are you going to do then? And my colleague said again, I want to see you, I want to hear from you how you're doing, and let's see if you have to change something. And again she said, bright eyes, bold in bed, what are you going to do? And the mother at the other bedside stepped into the discussion, and she said, are you going to do something, or is it just talking? And she said, no, it's just talking, everything has been done, all procedures have been run, so it's just a chat to see how you're doing. And again, the little girl in bed, 30 years of age, bold, bright eyes, said, so why not Skype then? And my colleague, within the blink of an eye, said, of course not. That's not possible in health and in healthcare. So to me, that moment is what we like to call something of an awakening or an epiphany. And I sense that that moment in time, to me at least 6 years ago, made a change to change healthcare from inside out. Because the world already was connected more and more, and patients were looking into the internet together with their informal care, but we as professionals kind of abandoned the internet other than our private setting for it. And this was going to change. The world is and was connected already everywhere. And I sensed that translating healthcare from something analog into digital was not going to work, actually. So we had to come up with smart things, and for that I was honored by my board that they agreed to a plan for me to create a little innovation cell which we call the REshape Center for Innovation. And we scout the world of technology, of opportunities, of other models in a disruptive area. And I don't have to explain to you guys how disruptive some of these things can be. We're actually in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, where the Internet of Things not only is working in all kinds of different branches like finance and maker industry and what have you, but also in health and healthcare. Imagine what the Internet of Things can do for changing lifestyles. Let me take you a bit on the journey of some of the technology that's coming up very shortly. This is one of the finalists of the X Prize for the Medical Tricorder that was issued a couple of years ago, where 300 teams admitted to create a physician in a box, at least running 9 diagnoses. This chap is running blood pressure. It can look into your ears. It measures your blood. It has blood samples, urine samples. 19 diagnoses are able to be made, is their claim, 10 of which already have been validated. And stuff also gets smaller. I think we all know what this ultrasound machine is that is getting wheeled in when your partner is in labor in hospital, for instance. And these things get smaller and smaller, like I would like to show you, taking it from my jacket. This is the new ultrasound. Connecting to a smartphone, we're now able to do these kind of things in ambulances, in GP clinics, and very shortly also in the comfort of your own home. Or what to think about things like the Bragi Dash earbuds, completely wireless. And I can make a phone call, of course. I can look into the sky and then it would tell me the weather. And since the update yesterday, it's also able to translate what you guys are telling to me and speak that text to me in my ears. But meanwhile, it measures my heart rate, the oxygenation level of my blood, and all kinds of other things. 28 sensors in the system already. And one could only wait before this Kickstarter campaign would go mainstream by one of the big corporates, which of course you all know happened in September last year when Apple announced the wireless earbuds. Still, without any sensors, at least not that they disclosed to us. You never know. But trust me, in version 2 or 3, these kind of developments will be in there. And it also will head into a different direction, like in supermarkets. And this is a 3D model of something that we've actually created in our REshape Center, where in the push bar you can see some electrodes and a small computer that connects to your smartphone. that knows that you got an allergy for gluten or whatever, and at the moment in time, and you can see my weight, obviously, when I'm going into the alley with the candies, it said, well, I don't think that that's a good idea, to be honest. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a cardiologist in the audience who said, well, could you put some power on it to shock the patients and the people in the supermarket? And from wearable technology, we're now going into the next era, very close to our body and even in our body, which I like to call insidables. And sometimes we can do fun stuff with these things. And at our REshape breakfast every Wednesday morning from 8 to 9, we've kind of combined two data sets, one of which is the glucose level from a patient with diabetes, the red line. The other one, the blue line, is your heart rate variability that we can derive from your watch or from, for instance, a patch that we could connect to your chest. And we can measure you like 3 to 4 days on a row with these things remotely. What this seems to tell us is that the heart rate variability is a predictor for somebody with diabetes to run into a hypo without pricking needles in somebody's body. If this is true, and we're trying to validate this right now and got some money for that, if that's true, that's changing the equation for people with diabetes. And I really do think that for the first time ever, we will be present when somebody gets sick, either to scroll back the data or at the very moment that it's occurred. And the other thing that's changing, that we as professionals will have to take a subscription on the data of patients as opposed to the other way around, where we give you access to our records. And more will be translated into services. This is a great example of virtual reality that somebody sent me from MIT a couple of weeks ago. How scaringly realistic virtual assistants are becoming.
Hello.
Sound, please.
My name is Nadia. I'm a virtual assistant and I'm here to help you. I'm not human, but I can make it easier for you and other NDIS users to get the information and help you need. You have more important things to do than wait on the phone, so I'm here to help whenever you need. I can hear you, and if you have a webcam, I can see you too.
Nadia is assisting 120,000 people with a disability in New Zealand. 24/7 answering all kinds of questions with artificial intelligence combined to it, helping people with that. So that's a virtual reality. But there's also a different reality, which is mine, which is the real reality.
Where virtual reality ends, real reality begins. Experience the NHL Centennial exhibit in RR. When you're looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves, you're looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves.
I'm looking at Sidney Crosby's gloves.
How? RR lets you see things that are actually there. Real reality, only at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
This was too good not to share. So this is my real reality. At one end in Singularity University in Silicon Valley and also in the Netherlands. And at the other side at Radboud University, on a daily basis, we try to deliver great healthcare and improve it. And still, this is, by the way, not a misformed kind of flag of Japan, but it resembles the very 1 hour that somebody with a chronic condition visits his physician in a year. 8,765 other hours in their years, they're on their own. They have to manage their own disease and their own condition. And then we try to figure out how we could use patient journeys to change and reshape healthcare. But still, we forgot that within the patient journey, there's different institutions, and if you don't add them all up, it not really goes in the right direction. And even within that institution, you got different physicians and nurses and other parties. But the biggest thing I forgot was somebody, Annemiek Vroom, who pointed me out to that, is the biggest journey of all, which is the journey of life. The majority of the choices that patients make are being made based on things that happened during their life and not during their healthcare journey. And still, this is the way we deliver healthcare. You have to take a day off to go to burn fossil fuels, by the way, still, to go to that hospital, to find that very last parking spot at the rear end of the parking garage. You rush to your department where you got this 10 a.m. visit. You're up at the desk at 2 minutes to 10 a.m., and then the clerk says, he's running late, just take a seat. And then at the moment in time when you take your second cup of coffee, you're being called in. And then no matter which research paper you trust, it's only 8 minutes that you got to spare. And then at the back end, of course, burning fossil fuels again. So what we really think is that healthcare is going to change from academical healthcare into subclinical healthcare, from that into supermarket healthcare, and then a lot of people talk about hospital to home. And I actually think it's only halfway down. You're not at home, you're not even at your work, but we all carry 24/7 our connected device. So I really think that healthcare is going to shift to mobiles in the broader sense. And also with new players coming up, like Walmart in the US wants to be the #1 player in healthcare. They're opening up 35 clinics a day in their supermarkets right now. Or Richard Branson from Virgin Care, running an airline, running a record company, has won an agreement with the English NHS to deliver for £750 million healthcare in the UK. So when my board in 2014 asked me, how is this going to play, for instance, in our real estate, I've calculated that 70% of every routine that we do at Radboud in the end of 2021 no longer will be done at our campus. And another spot in that sphere. Interesting enough, if you ask the public how they think that this plays out, and you would ask them, where do you think that good healthcare will be delivered in 10 years from now? A shocking numbers come up, at least shocking for our colleague physicians. Only 2% will be delivered in their perspective at the doctor's office, 10% in the hospitals, 20% at people's homes, and the rest everywhere. So this is a poll that already contains, it's not scientifically, of course, but still 1,600 people that have admitted to it. Let's be honest, we got a huge problem coming up, a tsunami coming up, where we will face a doubling of healthcare demand within the same budget, probably. So we have to fix it. And then some of my colleagues say, well, my patient population is too old for this. And I say, yeah, sure. This is the generation that we're admitting to elderly homes right now. The first Rolling Stones fans are coming in. They're taking a big laptop computer as big as a fridge, maybe, but still they're using it, or an iPad. But the elephant in the room is that within 20 years from now, the Generation Y consumption of healthcare is as big as the elderly one right now. Completely different from obese and mental illnesses and all kinds of other stuff. That's scary, to be honest. So we have to prepare for that. Again, the silver surfer is coming up. That's fine. And I think it was Einstein who said, we should have to stop to use old maps to explore new worlds. And that's where we as Radboud said we want to change it. We really took a strategy to emphasize that we want to run digital first, physical next. That's not to say that you're no longer welcome through our front door, of course, but we will offer you a digital track as well, and it's you to choose, if you're able to and if you want to. So from all these fuzzy signals that are coming up with all the technology, we're trying to make sense out of that. And of course, we're failing massively on these things. But we really think that that's the way to go. And in terms of listening to what patients, family, and formal care really need, 6 years ago, I appointed in my team the very first CLO. I think you guys know what a CEO is, or a CTO in this environment, of course. But a CLO is a Chief Listening Officer. And her single job, Corinne Jans, a great girl, is to listen what patients really have to say at their own kitchen table, with very small signals that get abandoned, and we now can move into what we like to call patients-included healthcare. That's not only based on evidence, but also based on the experiences that patients want to have. Of course, also evidence-based. And the second thing, and this is where you guys come in as well, healthcare is globalizing. There's no boundaries anymore in digital health. And healthcare is becoming a software business. Just imagine what is going to happen with those 5 billion people that are coming online in the upcoming years, with their knowledge and their need for healthcare, but also their power and also working force for that. We can't wait for that to create a better and very good global health, and we only can spend our money first. Healthcare is the best place to work in, I think. Let's have a peek in a small video on that. I think healthcare is the best place to work in with the biggest impact that you can imagine for yourself as well. So we have to change healthcare, but we can't do it alone. We've changed the curriculum for medical students and their education in 2015 already, incorporating e-health, social media innovation, and even BYOP. And I think you guys know what BYOD is, and yes, BYOP is bring your own patient. So we've asked our freshmen, 450, to adopt one of their family members or friends or even in the neighborhood and go with them in their journey throughout healthcare as a medical student as of day one and come back with the stories. Horrifying sometimes, heartwarming most of the time. Patients included in terms of patients teaching our new fellow doctors and physicians and also nurses. But it's not enough. So we've created all kinds of partnerships with great companies to learn from what you guys are doing on a daily basis and to connect the world out there, not only from technology, but also from experience and also from the creativity. But again, it's not enough. So we've created this global network of healthcare innovation centers where all the innovation centers in the world try to collaborate together to not spend the money twice and not to reinvent it over and over again. And maybe we have enough ideas for now, but maybe not. And we really need to help to not only spread those ideas, but also to create a sustainable healthcare. Because healthcare is changing in terms of 4Ds. It's getting delocalized, as I showed you in some examples. It's getting democratized based on the fact that the data is shifting from professional to the patient and the citizen themselves. It's also becoming digital. Not only from a technological perspective, but if something's invented in India, 4 weeks after, it's in the Netherlands, trust me. And the last one is about dollars. Huge investments needed, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars needed to create a better healthcare system and infrastructure. Don't let some numbers fool you. Healthcare is as big as a market, as finance, as food, as communication and all the other stuff. And in terms of improvement, being able to make, healthcare is in the upper ballpark at the right-hand side. So we can improve healthcare even better than we do right now with your help, hopefully. And with that, I really, really want to ask you, come share your knowledge, come share your creativity, come share your experience on machine learning, on behavioral change. You guys know how to market an idea. Let's assume that that also works for somebody who has to change his lifestyle, for instance. So on this stage, the only thing I can do empty-handed, because I cannot offer jobs, I cannot offer work. But if you're figuring out to run a social responsible project in the next months, or exploring a new market for your company, think of healthcare. At one point in our life, in one point in your life, you, yourself, your family, or your friends will have to travel to that planet, healthcare. And we really could use some help in that. Thank you.